Hey guys, Art17 here, and we're still in, uh, actually, this is week 2 video, and assignment number 3. So, that assignment is kitchen item from life. It's actually kitchen items, plural. I will change that, but for now, just take my word for it. It's several kitchen items. I'm going to show some examples of that, and also, from now on, from week 1, you're to use what you've learned in week 1 for future drawings, and all the shading and light source information that you've learned and proportion we're going to put into now every assignment as we go. I will I'll provide a video on still life drawing, which is basically what this is. So you're going to set up a few kitchen items. I'll show you an example of that, and draw them. And it sounds just like that. So there's a good example, because you have a bottle, you have a cup, you have a bowl, you have whatever that cracker container or whatever that is back there. And then you have sort of a background and a table. There's actually a tone in the table, so it's not totally white. And then there's a sort of a cast shadow back here. I'm going to show some other examples that actually have more contrast when you add more to the background tone. And it helps actually bring out the items on the page. So this is what I want you to notice out of all these examples. You'll notice as well that there's cast shadow on the table here on the left side. So the light source is coming from the right, and kind of in the front right, because this is going slightly to the back and to the side, the cast shadow on the table. Cast shadows, of course, as explained in the shading video, are not completely dark all the way around. There's lighter areas to it as the light diminishes as it's going around the object. And of course, glass has a lot of reflective areas, which you can just leave void of tone or graphite, or erase out areas like that after you have toned up the whole bottle. Erase little places out, and then it'll look like you want it to. And also on the inside of bowls and cups, you have the shadow area on the opposite side of the container, because the light is being blocked from this side of the inside, and it shines on this one, so on this side, but not that side. So it's kind of the opposite. This side's darker in here, and then this side is the darker side here. Everything in a round container is gradually coming from one tone to the next, from light tones to the dark tones. There's a lot of mid-tones in the middle. So it doesn't all of a sudden go dark, okay, on anything round. Something squared off like this in the back, that can change suddenly, because there's an edge there. So it's one mid-tone here with some cast shadow on the container from the cup, and then you have that part back here that's turned away from the light, and it has an edge on it. It's not rounded. So then that changes a little quicker. Let's see what else we got here. This is an okay drawing, except for the ellipse on the bottom of this cup here is not correct. Ellipses are the oval shape at the top and bottom of a container that's round. As you can see here, this isn't straight across, right? It has an oval shape to it, and the top has an oval shape to it. Same with this, but the bottom they drew straight, so don't do that. Don't draw it straight at the bottom, because it really isn't. Okay? This is more accurate, except for this one is straight here, because this is one of those square ball glass storage when you're canning or bottling. it's got a square bottom to it, so it is straight there. But this one is not. You see, it has that curve, that lisp. And here's the lisp at the top here and here too. It all depends on how you're looking at the object. If you're standing up looking down at it more, these lisps on the top are going to be more wide, because if you were looking directly over these containers, it would be a round circle. This opening would be a round circle. As you step back and lean back and then sit down, it becomes an oval shape as you're looking at it, because you're not able to look down inside. That's what the lisps are all about. And they change as your eye level changes to that object. Okay? But you have to have that knowledge. And I'll provide a video on the lisps as well. So there'll be a little one on still life drawing. It's about 11 minutes long, and the other one I'm not sure how long it is, but it explains what lisps are and why you need to show them when you're drawing. So this has a cur and a ball container and a couple of wooden spoons inside, and an apple and a spoon, which is very reflective. So the spoon has a lot of dark and light areas to it because it's metal and it's catching light in sort of distorted images of that light. So it goes around and around. But if you put something like metal down and the other objects, you'll see the way the light plays differently on glass and wood and metal and something like the apple. So I want you to notice all of that as well. Here's another one that the lisps are pretty good. Big lisp at the top here, and then this is pretty consistent. You don't want a big one up here and then have a straight one here. It won't look right. You have to have this curve match this curve on an lisp. If you don't, then it looks like you're looking kind of straight eye view at the bottom and looking over at the top, which isn't going to be right because you're looking over it or straight at it. So you have to make it all consistent within itself. So the oval here, that shape of that oval needs to be the same curve, degree of curve right there on the bottom too. Okay, the problem with this drawing is it has really no background. There's a cast shadow on the table, but the rest of it's kind of white and everything. It doesn't stand out as much. So I want you to take time and shade in the back and the table. And they can be, like the table could be lighter than the objects and the back could be darker than the objects. And that would bring them out really a lot. So here's an example of that. So it's darker in the background on the wall or wherever that is back there. You don't need to show a lot of detail in the back. It can just be smudged in like this. And then kind of tone and smudged in on the table with some cast shadows on the side where the light is not hitting. It's hitting on this side and leaving a cast shadow on the other side. And a lot of reflection marks on glass, darker side on the shadow side than the light side. But when you tone in the background, it lifts the objects out more and it looks more realistic. They're not really just sitting in a kind of an empty abyss. Okay? So that's a good way to do it. This is one where it's still a strong drawing, although they left this really white back there. I think if they toned it slightly, but everything in the background up on the wall area could be lighter than everything else. And then the table is actually darker. Certainly where the cast shadows are, it's darker than the objects and then lighter than the objects on the other side where the light is hitting it. So this cup is darker than that. This bottle is darker than that, except for here. So that when you separate the tones like that from your background and your surface and your subject, you need to separate the tones so they're not so similar that they all get kind of lost in each other. That's why they left this lighter than this, and then this is lighter than that, that's lighter than that, that's lighter than that. Same here. This is lighter than this because this is a little darker. Okay, so those are your different examples. I think this is one of the strongest ones. Oh, this is a pretty strong one too. And here they have the dark background with all the items being a little lighter. And then the table is the lighter area where the containers are a little darker than the table. So that's how they separate the background and the table from getting too many similar tones to the objects. So you're separating. But this dark color back there really pushes all the items forward, and they have a very, very good three-dimensional feel to them. So these are the two strongest, those two. Of course, you can pause the video, right, and look at these. Okay, so pay attention to how you set your object up. You want a single light source, not multiple light sources, not two lamps or a window and a lamp, or two windows on either side. It's going to confuse the shadows. To make a really strong drawing, you really need to have one light source coming from one direction or the other, and then so everything's lit up sort of on one side, gradually changing to the darker tones on the other. Then you have reflective light on the subject, which may be a little lighter there. Glass has a lot of reflections and darks and lights in it, but you can see the bottom of each container and a little bit of distorted image of what's behind it. Set them up so they're overlapping. One's behind the other slightly, so that they're not all straight across, because that's a real boring drawing if you have them all straight across, okay? This is more accurate to maybe a collection of something that you would draw, not items just totally starkly lined up with each other. That wouldn't be as nice. So you want 3 to 4 to 5, at least 3 items. Now I'll say that again. At least 3 items. There can be a cup with something in it and a bottle and maybe a spoon on the table, maybe 4 things. But not 1 or 2. That's really too easy, too small of a content. It's not a good composition. It's not an interesting drawing. So you're getting into drawings here that you may keep for your final, okay? And you may want to mat and frame this for your final. So think about that when you're drawing. Put in the effort. Listen to the lessons. And if I give suggestions, then you're going to change up. If you want to send me a drawing before you're finished and ask if you need to do more to it then, before you are finished, then that's good too. You can do that as well. And typically I do ask that you work on it more unless you're really good at drawing already. Okay, so look for those other videos. Get 3 or 4 items, right? Mix them up like this, but then have them overlapping each other. This is kind of a good one because you have an apple and a glass container, or more. I'm not sure if this is painted or not, or has something in it, but it's not exactly transparent. Then you have wood and metal, and sort of like alluding to a table back there and background. Well, that's a pretty good choice. This is all containers, but different sizes and different shapes. So that's cool too. And like I say, if you wanted to do that one's not all that great. I showed you that because the lisp is bad, but this is not bad. It'd be kind of cool if there was a wooden spoon in it, though, in one of the containers, but that's not bad. Okay, so set up your scene. Have one single light source, and a good one. Maybe take a photo of it, so when your light source changes, if it's light outside, it may change. And so you really want to capture that moment, that fleeting moment of your light, and have a good photo so that you could reference it later when you go back to it. Maybe you don't finish it within the time zone allotted there, and then so you want to go back to it a day later, and you're going to have the photo to reference, okay? So take a photo of it. All right, and then watch this video, watch the other 2 on a Lisp and still life drawing, and go ahead and get started. And I'll talk with you again on Wednesday.